JonBenet's family now hoping that, plus renewed public interest and new DNA technology, might finally help close this case.
The JonBenet Ramsey case has shocked America for almost 30 years, leaving behind many secrets, lies, and wild ideas. A 6-year-old girl found dead in her own home, a strange ransom note, and a perfect family image that quickly broke apart. A handwritten ransom letter demanding $118,000 was left behind on the stairs by the kitchen. This was no normal crime. While everyone else was pointing fingers and fighting at dinner tables, the real truth was hidden in plain sight, obscured by police errors and loud media stories. Now, fresh, startling evidence has finally surfaced, ready to unravel this case and reveal a far more sinister side to it than we ever imagined. Is this the conclusion that everyone has been waiting for? Prepare yourself, because what we're going to reveal could make you shiver. The mystery of JonBenet Ramsey is finally solved. It seemed for a very long time that JonBenet Ramsey's case would never be resolved. Everyone seemed to be guessing and arguing, and the police seemed to be stuck going around in circles. Many pondered who could harm a young girl in such a horrible way. The years passed by and the case stayed cold, but everything started to change because of new technology. This new technology was something that people didn't have back in the 90s. It was not as advanced as it is today. JonBenet Ramsey found dead by her father, John, in their Boulder, Colorado home on the day after Christmas in 1996. Back then, the police collected small pieces of DNA from her clothes and under her fingernails. They knew it belonged to some unknown man, but they didn't know who it was. The DNA was very tiny, and the tests back then needed more DNA to be really clear and strong. As a result, it provided the police with very little information, which was very annoying. Science improved steadily over the years. Experts and scientists discovered methods to extract more information from smaller DNA fragments. Genetic genealogy was one particularly significant change. This method involves finding people through family trees and DNA samples that people submit to websites in order to find their background. When people want to learn about where their ancestors came from, they sometimes send their DNA to companies. Even if a criminal never sends in his DNA, his family members might do it. By looking at the family member's DNA, investigators can start putting together a big puzzle. They can figure out which family a person might belong to and then start looking closer and closer until they find the right person. In 2024, the police ultimately made the decision to attempt this in the case of JonBenet. They collaborated with Parabon Nanolabs, a unique business. This business has solved other cold cases and is skilled at using DNA to determine family ties. Using cutting-edge technology, the police produced a new and improved DNA profile, which they then posted to a DNA website that is open to the public. They found some distant relatives, but they didn't immediately find the right match. These relatives might have been cousins or even farther away, but they weren't close like brothers or sisters. Nevertheless, this was a huge hint. After that, the experts and the police began creating family trees. They looked at old documents, birth records, marriage certificates, and even social media posts. They spent many months carefully checking each branch of the family tree, looking at who lived where and when. Finally, after a lot of hard work, they found one man who fit. This man was about 62 years old in 2024. Back in 1996, he was 34 years old and he lived just 2 miles away from the Ramsey house. He had a job working for a catering company, and this company did parties in the Ramsey neighborhood, including one just a few doors away from the Ramsey home. Now that this long-hidden suspect has finally been uncovered, what new evidence has come to light to connect him to that tragic night? Let's learn more. A hidden suspect finally found. This man had never been a suspect before. Nobody had ever thought about him. He had a few crimes on his record, like burglary and fraud, but they were not violent crimes. No one thought he was dangerous to kids. That's why the police had never talked to him. After the assassination, he moved away from Colorado. He went to Arizona, then Nevada, then Texas, and later to Washington State. He kept moving from place to place, maybe trying to start over or maybe to hide. The police secretly collected his DNA by taking things he'd thrown away, like a coffee cup or a cigarette butt. They tested this DNA, and it matched the DNA from JonBenet's clothes exactly. The chance that it belonged to someone else was so tiny it was almost impossible. When they searched his home and a storage unit, they found more clues. According to sources close to the investigation, a team of experts is going through the remaining evidence. They found an old jacket from the 90s that had fibers matching fibers from JonBenet's clothes. They also looked again at the ransom note. With new software, they found patterns in the handwriting that matched samples from this man's old job records. Right now, no one knows if he really knew the Ramsey family personally. Maybe he just learned about them from working nearby or saw them at a party. He might have known they were leaving town after Christmas and thought he could sneak in. Before they officially arrest him, the personnel cross-checking facts are working really hard today to make sure they have all the proof they need. After years of waiting and sadness, this news gives JonBenet's family new hope and a little light. How did the shocking events on that cold December morning truly unfold, and why did the investigation fall apart so badly? Keep watching for more. The day everything changed, JonBenet's death and the broken investigation. Her mother, Patsy Ramsey, discovered a lengthy, peculiar handwritten ransom note on the stairs of their large house on a cold morning shortly after Christmas. Unlike most ransom notes, this one was lengthy, roughly 2.5 pages, and extremely detailed. It requested precisely $118,000, which was nearly equal to John Ramsey's annual bonus. This immediately gave the impression that it was highly suspicious. When Patsy read the note, she realized that JonBenet was missing. She quickly called the police, feeling scared and not knowing what else to do. The police came to the house to check everything, but they first thought it was just a kidnapping, so they did not treat the whole house like a crime scene. Instead, they only blocked off JonBenet's bedroom. Because of this, family members and friends were walking around everywhere in the house, which could have messed up important evidence. Later that same day, John Ramsey, JonBenet's father, found her body in the basement of their house. She was only 6 years old. Her little body showed she had been hurt badly. Her skull was fractured and she'd been strangled using a homemade garrote made from a cord and part of a paintbrush that belonged to her mother. Even though there looked like there had been a small treatment, experts didn't find strong evidence to say there was actual rape. The official cause of her death was asphyxia by strangulation along with a serious head injury, showing clearly that someone had assassinated her. JonBenet was later buried at St. James Episcopal Cemetery in Marietta, Georgia. She was laid to rest beside her half-sister, Elizabeth, who had sadly died in a car accident 4 years before. It was a heartbreaking moment for the family to lose 2 daughters. You know, you may be eluding the authorities for a time, but God knows who you are, and we will find you. The investigation into JonBenet's death was full of mistakes. Another big mistake was letting John and Patsy be interviewed together instead of separately. Usually, people are questioned alone, so they can't influence each other's answers. Moving JonBenet's body also ruined important evidence that could have helped figure out how she died and what really happened in that basement. The ransom note itself was another strange piece of the puzzle. It looked like someone had practiced writing it before making the final version. The note was signed with the letters SBTC. No one has ever figured out exactly what those letters mean. There were many different suspects in this case. At first, many people thought that someone in the family might have done it. Some people thought JonBenet's mother, Patsy, was involved. Others thought her brother, Burke, might have hurt her by accident. But when experts checked Patsy's handwriting, they couldn't say for sure that she wrote it. There was also no strong evidence to show that Burke had anything to do with it. Another suspect was a man named Bill McReynolds. He dressed as a Santa Claus and had visited JonBenet a few days before she died. He said he felt very close to her. He even kept some glitter she gave him and wanted it mixed with his ashes after he died. Many people thought this was strange, but there was no real proof that he hurt JonBenet. Another man named Gary Oliva also became a suspect. He lived close to the Ramseys' house and had been arrested later for child pornography. After JonBenet's death, he called a friend and said he had hurt a little girl. This made people very suspicious, but his DNA did not match the DNA found on JonBenet's clothes, so he was not charged. Another man, John Mark Carr, also confessed to the crime years later. He said he loved JonBenet and told a reporter that he had hit her in the head with a flashlight. But when police checked, they found he was in another state at the time. His DNA also did not match, so they knew he was not the real killer. Later on, some DNA experts looked at the evidence again. They said the unknown DNA on JonBenet's clothes might have come from the factory where her clothes were made. Sometimes, small bits of DNA can stay on new clothes before they're even worn. This idea made the case even more confusing and left more questions than answers. Today, JonBenet's case is still unsolved. Many people all over the world still think about her and wonder who really assassinated her. Even after all these years, her story continues to touch people's hearts and makes them